The animal is falling. Its legs buckle beneath it. Its head twists back toward the shaft or spear that has entered its body. The line is simple, almost severe, and yet the wound gathers the whole cave around itself. The wall darkens. The ochre deepens. The body, once running, now becomes a place of attention. Somewhere in the painted dark of prehistory, the beast has been struck. The wound is small. The meaning is enormous. That is where this episode begins, with the wounded beast. The animal shown at the moment between life and death, strength and collapse, wildness and offering. Early sacred art is full of animals. Bulls, horses, bison, stags, mammoths, lions. They move across stone with a majesty that still makes modern people lower their voices, which is a rare achievement for anything older than a parking receipt. Yet among these animals, certain images seem especially charged. The wounded animal, the pierced body, the broken flank. The creature marked by death, injury, or pursuit. This is not sentimental art. The people who made these images knew animals by hunger, cold, tracking, blood, danger, fear, and dependence. They did not know them as decorative symbols in a children's book. A bison was meat, hide, bone, horn, risk, abundance, terror, and gift. A stag was beauty with hooves, and also winter food walking away from you at irritating speed. A horse was power in motion. A mammoth was a mountain with tusks and a temper. The first great animal art appears in a world where human life was bound to animal death. To eat was to kill, or to receive what had already been killed. To survive was to know the body of the beast intimately, its tracks in mud, its breath in cold air, its smell on the wind, the pull of its muscles beneath hide, the dark gleam of blood when the hunt succeeded. For modern viewers, the wounded animal can look like a hunting record. Someone saw an animal, remembered the chase, and painted it. That may be part of the truth, yet it cannot be the whole truth. These images were made deep in caves, in spaces removed from ordinary daylight, often where access required effort, darkness, and bodily risk. A man did not stroll down there after dinner because he was bored and wanted to sketch the menu. The cave itself mattered, the darkness mattered, the wall mattered. The image mattered. The wounded beast gives visible form to a strange religious fact. Injury can become holy when it stands at the crossing point between violence, dependence, gratitude, and mystery. This is difficult for us because modern people often divide violence and holiness into separate rooms and then lose the key to both. We prefer clean symbols. We like our spirituality bloodless, our meat wrapped in plastic, our rituals brief, and our mortality hidden behind polite fabric. The ancient hunter had fewer curtains. He lived closer to the wound. The animal died so that the human group could live. That fact created fear, gratitude, and debt. It also created a problem. What does a person owe to the creature whose death keeps him alive? What does the tribe owe to the animal whose body becomes food, clothing, tools, shelter, and memory? What does a man see when he watches power fall? The wounded beast answers with an image. In Paleolithic cave art, animals are often shown with astonishing sensitivity. They are not clumsy doodles by people waiting for civilization to begin. They are alive with rhythm and observation. A curve of the back suggests motion. A lifted head suggests alarm. A lowered neck suggests weight. The painter knew the animal's anatomy from more than sight. He knew it by dependence. He knew where muscle thickened, where the shoulder rose, where the belly rounded, where the horns carried force. In some caves, marks appear near animal bodies that have been read as wounds, darts, or signs of the hunt. In Lascaux, the famous scene in the shaft shows a wounded bison with its entrails spilling beneath it, a bird-headed human figure nearby, and a rhinoceros moving away. It remains one of the most haunting images in prehistoric art. It is awkward, violent, and mysterious. It resists tidy explanation like a mule in a chapel aisle. The bison is not shown as a mere carcass. It is a charged body. Its wound is open. Its strength remains visible. Its death is present, yet incomplete. The human figure, if that is what he is, lies or falls before it. The bird on a stick stands nearby, as if the scene has crossed into ritual territory. Something has happened here that cannot be reduced to dinner. The wounded beast may represent a hunt. It may also represent a myth, a trance, a rite, an offering, a vision, or an encounter with the powers that governed animal life and human survival. The point is not to force one answer onto the wall. The point is to see that animal death was not plain. It was surrounded by meaning. A hunt is never only motion and weapon. It is preparation, attention, danger, waiting, fear, skill, and aftermath. Before the blow, there is knowledge of the animal's habits. During the chase, there is the tellable closeness of human weakness and animal power. After the kill, there is the body, warm, heavy, silent, suddenly given. The kill changes the animal. It also changes the hunter. To wound an animal is to cross a threshold. One moment the animal belongs to the wild. The next, its life begins to pass into human hands. Its blood darkens the ground. Its breath weakens. Its power, which had been free, becomes available. That availability is frightening. It can feel like victory. It can also feel like trespass. Many hunting cultures have treated animals as persons of another order, beings with spirits, lords, guardians, or kinship ties to the unseen. The hunt then becomes more than taking. It becomes negotiation. The animal is pursued, killed, thanked, appeased, returned, remembered, or ritually addressed. The body is used because waste would insult the gift. The bones may be treated with care. The skull may be placed, hung, buried, or preserved. The animal is dead, but the relation remains. This is the sacred logic behind the wounded beast. The wound is where the relation becomes visible. The animal is no longer merely out there, untouchable and wild. It has been opened. Its inner life, once sealed under hide, appears. Blood comes out. Breath departs. The hunter sees what life costs. He sees that food is not an abstraction. A living creature must become broken flesh. That knowledge does not make the hunt gentle. It gives it gravity. A clean, modern mind may wish to flee from the scene and order something with a tasteful label. The cave painter stays. He looks at the injury. He paints it. He brings it into the sacred dark. Why would injury become holy? Because the wound reveals dependence. A living body seems self-contained. The running animal appears complete in itself, a form of strength moving through the world. The wound breaks that illusion. It shows the hidden vulnerability beneath power. The beast that seemed almost divine in motion can be pierced. Its majesty can fall. Its life can pour out through a small opening in the skin. In that moment, the hunter sees a truth that no lecture can improve. Life is held together by a fragile skin. Power is real, but it bleeds. Beauty is real, but it can collapse. The body is a miracle, and the miracle can be opened. This is one reason wounded animals appear so often in later sacred art and myth. The dying bull, the pierced stag, the sacrificial lamb, the slain dragon, the hunted hart, the wounded boar, the dying god in animal form, the creature offered at the altar. Across civilizations, injury becomes the mark of passage between visible life and invisible power. In ancient sacrifice, the animal's death was rarely treated as a simple disposal of property. The victim had to be selected, washed, adorned, led, marked, and killed in a ritual order. Its blood mattered, its organs mattered, its smoke mattered. The body became a medium between human beings and the gods. The animal stood at the center because it had life, and life was the proper gift to powers beyond ordinary human control. Sacrifice can look primitive to people whose own age has perfected slaughter while hiding the blood. We have not escaped animal death. We have outsourced the sight of it. The ancients put the animal at the altar and watched. We put it behind walls, paperwork, refrigeration, and cheerful branding. One system is bloody in public. The other is bloody with excellent fonts. The wounded beast of the cave is earlier than the temple altar, but it belongs to the same deep human pattern. The animal body becomes the place where life, death, need, and the sacred meet. The cave wall does not show theology in formal language. It shows theology as event. A body is struck. Blood appears. A life passes. The group survives. The question rises: to whom is thanks owed? That question may be older than agriculture, older than writing, older than kings, older than cities. Before stone temples, before bronze knives, before liturgies spoken by priests, there was the hunter standing over the wounded animal. There was the silence after the kill. There was the heavy work of cutting, carrying, sharing, drying, scraping, sewing, remembering. There was the knowledge that the animal's death would enter the human group and become strength. This is why the wounded beast is never merely pathetic. It is tragic and holy. It is a victim, but also a giver. It is conquered, but still majestic. The image holds two truths together. Man must kill, and man must answer for killing. That answer may have taken many forms: a chant, a gesture, a painted mark, a dance in the dark, a rule about how bones are handled, a story told to children, a taboo around waste, a return of the skull to the earth, a belief that the animal's spirit must be honored so that its kind will return. The cave image does not tell us all this in tidy prose. It gives us a scene. That is what great sacred art often does. It does not hand us a paragraph with numbered claims. It places us before a form and lets the form work on the nerves. Look again at the wounded animal. The line of the back still carries strength. The horns or head still suggest danger. The animal has not become a thing. Even in injury, it remains charged with presence. This is crucial. A dead animal can become meat. A wounded beast remains a living presence at the edge of death. That edge is where sacred attention gathers. The wound turns time into ritual time. Before the wound, there is pursuit. After death, there is processing. In the wound, there is suspension. The animal is between states. It is still alive, but its life has been claimed. It belongs to the wild, but it is entering the human camp. It is powerful, but it is failing. It is visible, but it is becoming invisible. Religions return to these thresholds because thresholds reveal order. Birth, death, marriage, initiation, sacrifice, burial, coronation, fasting, feasting. Each one marks a crossing. The wounded animal marks the crossing of life into death and wild power into human nourishment. This is why injury can acquire strange holiness. The wound is a door. That phrase may sound too gentle for the thing itself. A wound is pain, torn tissue, fear and blood. Yet sacred art has never been afraid of severe beauty. In many traditions, the holy is not sweet. It is dazzling, dangerous and exacting. It burns, it cuts, it demands. It draws the eye and troubles the stomach. The wounded beast is among the earliest images of that severe beauty. A hunter who wounds an animal enters a moral and spiritual crisis. He has done what must be done. He has also damaged a living form of greatness. The animal's body declares both necessity and guilt. That is a hard truth, and ancient ritual exists partly to carry hard truths without turning them into madness. Sacrifice disciplines violence. It does not make killing casual. It gives killing form, boundary, speech, gesture, and memory. The knife is raised in a place, at a time, under rules, before witnesses, before gods. The animal is killed, but the killing is contained inside order. The hunt can be understood in a similar way. The successful hunt is dangerous because it produces abundance through death. Without ritual, abundance can turn into arrogance. The hunter may begin to see himself as master of life. Ritual says otherwise. It reminds him that he did not create the animal, the forest, the herd, the weather, the breath in his own lungs, or the strange luck that brought the beast within range. The wounded animal, therefore, humbles the hunter. It says, "You live because another life has opened." No civilization can remain sane if it forgets this. It will begin treating the world as raw material, then act surprised when the world answers with a cold stare. Ancient peoples were capable of cruelty, folly, and vanity, because every age has its little parade of decorated idiots. Yet many of them understood something modern comfort obscures. Life is received through bodies, and bodies are costly. The wounded beast keeps that cost before the eyes. When later sacrificial systems developed, this intuition became formal. In the ancient Near East, Greece, Rome, Israel, India, and many other cultures, the animal victim stood at the center of ritual exchange. The animal could carry thanksgiving, atonement, petition, purification, communion, or royal power. Its blood could consecrate, cleanse, seal, or appease. Its smoke could rise. Its flesh could be shared in sacred meals. Its death could restore a bond between human society and divine order. This does not mean every sacrifice meant the same thing. A bull before Zeus, a lamb in ancient Israel, a horse in royal Indo-European rites, a goat sent into the wilderness, a cock offered at a shrine, and a buffalo killed in a village festival all belong to different religious worlds. Flattening them into one theory is the scholar's version of putting every cathedral, barn, and shopping mall under the label large indoor thing. Technically alert, spiritually useless. Still, a pattern appears. The animal's death is treated as more than physical event. It mediates relation. It makes visible the bond between life and the powers that sustain, threaten, or judge it. The cave painter did not yet build an altar in marble. He used stone already given by the earth. The wall received the animal. The dark held the image. The wound became a sign. Here the cave itself matters again. The wound painted in darkness is not the same as a wound drawn in daylight. To enter the cave is to leave ordinary space. The body stoops, the hand feels stone, the flame trembles, the air changes. Images appear and disappear as light moves across them. The wounded beast seems to emerge from the rock rather than sit on it. This gives the animal a double presence. It is painted on the wall, yet also born from the wall. The stone's bumps, curves, cracks, and shadows become part of its body. In some cave art, artists used the natural shape of rock to suggest flanks, backs, shoulders, and movement. The animal was not imposed on blank emptiness. It was discovered in the stone, coaxed out by line and pigment. A wounded beast emerging from stone is a powerful thing. It suggests that animal life belongs to a hidden order beneath ordinary sight. The cave wall becomes a membrane. Behind it, perhaps, are the powers of animal abundance, the ancestors, the spirits, the underworld, the dream, the place from which herds return. The painted wound may speak to that hidden order. It may ask for success. It may give thanks. It may reenact the hunt. It may teach the young. It may bind the group around a shared terror and a shared hope. We must be careful here. Prehistoric religion does not come with subtitles. The wall does not explain itself. Any confident interpreter should be handed a small broom and asked to sweep the cave entrance until humility returns. Yet caution should not make us blind. These images were made with care, skill, and placement. They belong to a world in which animals were spiritually charged. The wounded beast clearly mattered. To see why, consider the hunter's experience after the kill. The animal's body must be opened. Skin is cut, blood drains, organs steam in cold air. Meat is separated, bones are broken, fat is saved, hide is scraped, sinew is prepared. Nothing is abstract. The beast becomes many things: food for the old, strength for children, clothing against winter, tools from bone, stories around fire, prestige for the hunter, obligation for the group. The wound begins a chain of transformations. Living animal becomes dead animal. Dead animal becomes shared body. Shared body becomes human life. Human life becomes memory, story, and ritual. The beast enters the people. This is one of the oldest forms of communion. That word should be used carefully. Communion, in the broad human sense, means shared participation in life through a sacred medium. In the hunt, the animal becomes the medium. Its body is divided and eaten. The group is bound together by receiving the same life. The meal after a successful hunt is never merely nutritional. It is social, ancestral, and religious. The meat tastes of survival. The wounded beast on the wall may stand before that meal as image, memory, and prayer. It holds the moment when the animal's life begins to pass into the human circle. It marks the terrible grace of dependence. Later religious traditions would refine, challenge, intensify, or replace this pattern. In Israel, sacrifice became bound to covenant, purity, sin, and the holiness of God. In Christianity, the sacrificial animal would be fulfilled in the figure of Christ as the Lamb of God, where the wounded body becomes the center of salvation itself. In Buddhism and Jainism, the moral problem of injury to living beings would be pressed with intense seriousness, leading to powerful critiques of killing and sacrifice. In Hindu traditions, sacrificial and non-violent ideals would contend and coexist in complex ways across time. In ancient Mediterranean religion, animal sacrifice structured civic worship, binding city, gods, and public order through the altar. The wounded beast does not contain all later doctrine. It stands near the beginning of the path. It gives us the first rough grammar of a truth that would haunt religion for millennia. Life comes through death, and the body that suffers may become the body that gives. There is also fear in the wounded beast. The animal might not die cleanly. A wounded bison can turn. A wounded boar can rip open a man. A wounded stag can vanish into forest and leave the hunter with guilt, hunger, and a bad afternoon. Injury creates danger because it changes the animal's relation to the human. The beast is no longer fleeing as before. It may become desperate, unpredictable, fierce. That fear deepens the image. The wounded animal is not passive. Even in collapse, it may carry threat. The hunter has opened a violent exchange, and the outcome is uncertain. The animal's injury might lead to human injury. Its death might require risk. Its blood might call for answer. This is why hunting art often feels charged with more than human control. It does not simply announce mastery over animals. It shows dependence on forces that can exceed man. The hunter may be clever, but he is small. He can make tools, read tracks, coordinate with others, and paint the animal after the fact. Yet in the moment of encounter, he stands before strength that can crush, gore, trample, or vanish. The wounded beast shows victory trembling beside vulnerability. Modern triumphal art often prefers the clean pose. Hero upright, enemy down, banners behaving themselves for once. Prehistoric animal art is stranger. It often gives more dignity to the beast than to the human. Animals dominate the walls. Humans appear rarely, and when they do, they can seem awkward, masked, partial, or overwhelmed. The animal is the great presence. Man enters the scene almost as a supplicant. That proportion tells us something. Early sacred art did not begin with man flattering himself. It began with man facing what exceeded him. The animal was food, but also more than food. It was power outside the human camp. It lived by senses sharper than man's. It moved through terrain with bodily knowledge man had to study. It survived cold, darkness, pursuit, and scarcity. It belonged to an order older than speech. To kill such a creature was to touch that order. The wound is the mark of contact. In religious terms, contact with power often requires danger. Sacred things can bless, but they can also burn. The altar, the relic, the idol, the icon, the shrine, the holy mountain, the forbidden grove, the temple interior. These are places and things where ordinary handling changes. One approaches carefully. One washes, fasts, removes shoes, lowers the voice, covers the head, uncovers the head, brings an offering, keeps distance, or follows a prescribed path. Sacred contact is rarely casual. The hunt had its own version of this. The hunter entered the animal's world. He crossed into danger. He returned with life wrested from that danger. The wound marked the crossing, and the image preserved it. When the wounded beast is painted deep in a cave, the hunt itself becomes more than memory. It becomes a ritual drama. The painter returns to the moment of contact and fixes it in darkness. The animal's injury is held where time does not move in the ordinary way. The hunt is over, but the wound remains open on the wall. That open wound may have served many purposes. It may have taught where to strike. It may have strengthened courage before the hunt. It may have honored the animal after the hunt. It may have made present the animal's spirit. It may have allowed the group to revisit the danger without being destroyed by it. Sacred images often do this. They make a terrifying thing bearable by giving it form. Think of grief without a burial rite. It floods the house. It has nowhere to go. The body lies there, and the living are trapped between love and horror. Ritual gives grief a path. The washing, the dressing, the carrying, the prayers, the grave, the meal afterward. Each act gives shape to a fact too large for ordinary speech. The wounded beast may have done something similar for the violence of the hunt. It gave the injury a place. It turned the kill into an image that could be approached, remembered, repeated, and perhaps healed. There is a deep mercy in form. Without form, violence is chaos. With form, violence can become sacrifice, mourning, warning, covenant, or memory. The form does not erase blood. It teaches the living how to stand near it. This is why sacred art so often returns to wounded bodies. The slain animal, the pierced saint, the martyr, the crucified Christ, the God dismembered, the hero scarred, the offering on the altar. The wound focuses attention because it reveals the body as both fragile and meaningful. It shows that life is not weightless. It can be given, taken, spent, shared, violated, honored. The modern eye may recoil. That recoil is not foolish. Blood should trouble us. A person who can look at injury without any inner movement has misplaced some important furniture in the soul. Yet recoil alone is too shallow. The question is what the wound means. In the cave, the wound seems to mean that the animal's death cannot be ignored. It must be seen. It must be painted. It must be placed where ordinary sight gives way to sacred sight. The wounded beast also tells us something about beauty. Beauty is often mistaken for smoothness, polish, and pleasant proportion. Those things have their place. A marble column, a clear chant, a fine textile, a gold ground shining behind a saint. Yet sacred beauty can also appear in brokenness, when the break reveals truth. The wounded animal is beautiful because it is true to dependence, mortality, and power. It does not flatter the viewer. It amazes by refusing comfort. There is majesty in the animal before it falls. There is another kind of majesty in the falling itself. A running beast displays created strength. A wounded beast displays the cost of living within a world where strength feeds weakness, weakness outwits strength, and every body returns to the dark from which it came. That is severe beauty. It has iron in it. The cave painter's greatness lies partly in this refusal to simplify. He does not make the animal a mere target. He does not reduce it to meat. He gives it form worthy of attention. The animal's body remains noble even as it suffers. Its wound does not erase its power. It intensifies the mystery of that power. This matters because sacred art depends on reverent attention. To paint the wounded beast carefully is already to resist contempt. The image says, "This creature's death matters. This body deserves memory. This wound belongs to the order of things we approach in darkness, with pigment, flame, and fear." A civilization that cannot see wounded bodies with reverence will eventually see living bodies without reverence as well. Once injury becomes invisible, cruelty dresses itself nicely and learns to speak in office vocabulary. The afterlife of the wounded beast is vast. Later art would give the animal victim a more formal place. On ancient altars, carved reliefs show bulls led to sacrifice, garlanded before death. Greek vase painters depicted hunts where heroism, masculinity, danger and divine favor met in the animal's fall. Near Eastern royal art showed kings conquering lions, turning the wounded beast into a sign of royal mastery over chaos. Medieval Christian art transformed the wounded animal through the language of Christ, especially in the lamb, the pelican, and the stag. The lamb, slain yet triumphant, became one of the most powerful images in Christian civilization. The wound became victory, offering, and redemption. The stag, too, carried holiness. In Christian legend, the hunter may see a crucifix between the antlers of the pursued animal. The chase becomes conversion. The beast leads man beyond appetite into revelation. The animal that might have been killed becomes the messenger of God. The hunt is interrupted by glory, which is one way heaven keeps men from becoming too impressed with their hobbies. In medieval bestiaries, animals became moral and spiritual figures. Their bodies were read as books. The wounded, hunted, or sacrificial creature could speak of Christ, the soul, sin, virtue, temptation, and divine pursuit. The animal world became a field of signs. Yet the old cave intuition remained. Animal life was never spiritually empty. Its injury could reveal human dependence. Its death could disclose divine order. Its body could carry meaning beyond its flesh. Modernity changed this relation by removing animal death from sight. The wound did not vanish. It moved out of the sacred center and into industrial space. Slaughter became hidden. Hunting became sport, management, heritage, or controversy. Sacrifice became a term for metaphor, except in religious communities that retained ritual slaughter. The animal body remained necessary, but the old reverence thinned. The museum also changed the wounded beast. Once placed under electric light, labeled, photographed, and explained, the cave image becomes prehistoric art. That phrase is useful, but it can sterilize the thing. The wounded animal becomes an artifact from early human symbolic behavior, which sounds like a committee trying to describe thunder without being accused of poetry. Something true is said, something greater is missed. To see the wounded beast only as evidence of cognition is to stand before a wound and admire the handwriting. The image must be allowed to remain religiously dangerous. It belongs to a world where hunger, fear, gratitude, and sacred presence met in animal death. It asks modern viewers to remember that life is received through sacrifice, whether acknowledged or hidden. It tells us that injury can be obscene when meaningless, holy when ordered toward gift, and terrifying when we can no longer tell the difference. This distinction matters. The holiness of injury does not mean that every wound is good. That would be monstrous. Injury becomes holy only when it reveals, gives, purifies, redeems, or restores within a sacred order. A wound inflicted for cruelty is degradation. A wound received in sacrifice may become offering. A wound shown in sacred art asks us to discern the difference. The wounded beast is powerful because it stands before doctrine and after instinct. It is image at the birth of thought. It does not explain, it shows. It shows a creature opened. It shows man dependent. It shows death entering culture. It shows the first glimmer of sacrifice before the altar has learned its name. For the grand vision, this image matters because sacred art begins where invisible belief takes visible form. In the wounded beast, belief has not yet become cathedral, icon, manuscript, or liturgy. It is still close to breath and blood. It is pigment on stone, laid in darkness near the memory of a hunt. The form is simple. The meaning is already immense. The wounded animal gives the earliest human imagination a body of truth. The world is alive, with powers beyond man. Survival requires death. Killing demands answer. The animal is worthy of reverence. The wound is a threshold. Beauty can appear where life breaks open. That is a severe lesson. It may be one of the oldest lessons art ever taught. Standing before such an image, we should resist the urge to tidy it. The cave does not need our little broom of explanation. It asks for a slower gaze. See the flank, see the mark, see the collapse. See the greatness of the creature even as it falls. See the human hand that painted it, perhaps trembling from memory, perhaps steady from ritual, perhaps guided by a story now lost beyond recovery. The animal is wounded, but it is not erased. It remains on the wall. Its blood has dried in whatever hunt first gave rise to the image. Its species may have changed, migrated, vanished, or become a museum diagram with a Latin name and a faintly smug caption. The people who painted it are gone. Their language is gone. Their songs are gone. Their fires are gone. Yet the beast remains. In the painted dark, the wounded animal still falls. It falls forever, and forever refuses to become merely dead. Its injury holds a world together: hunger, fear, gratitude, violence, pity, offering, and wonder. The wound is small, but through it we glimpse the first altar, before stone was cut and before prayers were written. A beast is struck. A human hand remembers. The cave receives the image. And somewhere in that darkness, art learns that the holy is not always found above the blood. Sometimes it appears exactly where the blood begins.
Join us again for the grand vision.